Hello and welcome, one and all, to my interview series, Creative Spark, where I interview cool people about the cool things that they do. With me today is the only person that regularly whips things that you can safely introduce to your parents, Jacques Ze Whipper.
I love that intro. That's wonderful. It just gets over just how basic and vanilla I am, which is a new series that I'm doing. Because no one believes
Oh, I
me when I
did
tell them I'm
see.
basic and vanilla.
I mean, you do it yourself, man.
Listen, man, like I'm over here. I look like, as I like to say, I look like the missing Romney child. And I don't know if that'll translate to a
Yeah.
Brit, but like, yeah, like I look like I came out of, the nice Sunday school with the clean haircut and all that. And then people are like, what do you do? And I'm like, I crack whips for a living on the side, kids. Come on down.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, I get it. I get it. How are you?
I'm doing great. I am back home after like 2 months on the road. I'm only briefly home. I'm flying back out in 2 days. But it's nice to have a little bit of time where I can hang out. I got my cat here
Yep.
next to me in his we call this his gaming chair because it's 2 cat beds on top of each other, which is lighter than usual. Usually he requires 3 to stay there, but
It's so
I'm doing well.
fancy.
How
Such a
are you
fancy
doing?
cat. Yeah, no, I'm good. My cats are not that fancy. My cat, one of them has anxiety, and the other one likes to poop as close to me as she possibly can.
I
That seems to
respect
be her
that.
entire thing. Yeah, I mean, you sort of have to.
It's a show
Um,
of dominance.
it is, and they fully own me. It's great. I love being subservient to tiny pooping creatures.
There you go.
Um,
Well, you got kids for that too.
I do also have kids for that. Yes, it's my the last seven. No, wait, how old's a cat? 8 years. The last 8 years of my life has basically just been constantly picking up poop. Um, they don't tell you that about adult life. Oh yeah, the older
No.
you get, the more likely it is that you're going to clean up other people's poop. And it's like, I don't think that sounds good.
They save that. That's not in the, like, initial orientation.
That's in the patch notes right at the bottom.
Mhm,
That you
mhm.
just
Yeah,
wait. Was that?
initial orientation is you get to drink, you get to,
Okay,
do
sounds
all
good.
this other you basically do all the vices, and
Mm,
then, like, after about 5 years, you're like, "No, the vices are not that good."
I'm tired.
Yeah, I wanna sleep better.
um, so with the series, we always go back to the beginning of where people started, kind of what they're doing. But I think with you, that's a lot further back than with a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, and also, I'm fully aware for anyone watching this that is a big Jack fan that you basically interview yourself on your Instagram as well. So we're going to cover some of the things that people already know, but it's in one place. And this time
Oh,
there's a
good.
random British person.
It
um,
adds that air of authority to it, as we were saying before we hit record.
yes. So yeah, talk to me about when you started circus training effectively.
I mean, I started performing when I was 6, with my dad. We were doing Renaissance fairs. But that was like I wasn't doing a whole lot of performance. It was mostly just like I was on stage so he could watch me, I think, more than basically like be on stage so that I can still babysit you while I'm doing my job.
Childcare.
Um, and I think I was 7 when I learned how to crack a whip. But that wasn't like formal training, I guess. I mean, like none of my training is formal training. I guess 15 and 17 are when I learned like the 2 skills that I know best, which are knife throwing and whip cracking. I actually learned knife throwing better before the whip cracking. But knife throwing is like you got to carry around so many props that are so heavy for knife throwing. Whereas a whip, like the whips are like 2 pounds. You can put them in a backpack. The backpack, if it has to go through an X-ray machine,
Yep.
doesn't get all the weird looks as opposed to like carrying 8 throwing knives. Like
Yeah.
you can't take that on an airplane. Can't take a whip on an airplane either, which is frustrating.
Mm.
But yeah.
How do you get from place to place without being able to take a whiff on the
Uh
airplane?
you gotta check your bag.
Ah, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Not like on the. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. So why did you was the weight thing the reason you chose the whip over the
I
knives?
think the reason yeah, I mean, the knives, I mean, the knives, I mean, frankly, just so much more dangerous than the
Mm,
whip. But the whip is also it's so attention grabbing, so quickly that I mean, so many circus acts and street performers, buskers, Renaissance fair performers will use like 5 minutes of whip cracking at the start of the show to let people know, like, hey, there's a show coming on,
mm.
come and watch the show. I just took it a little bit further and I was like, I can build a whole show around this. And that's where and now I've built almost 2 full shows just around whip cracking. And then
Mhm.
there are other skills that get peppered in here and there. And I'm working on a third now as well.
Very cool. Uh, at what point during this journey did you somehow end up becoming a news anchor?
Well, so I grew up in a very wealthy suburb of New York City. Now, we were not especially wealthy, but my mother was teaching at the local college, and so I went to school with kids whose parents were all like investment bankers,
Hmm.
film directors. Like I was very much the odd one out. Um, both because of how much my family made, but also because I was the circus kid.
Mm.
And so there was this stretch of time where I did not want anything to do with circus performance. And I was like, okay, but I have these performance skills. I really like to write. So I was like, maybe I want to be an actor. Maybe I want to be a writer. And for me, news anchoring and, being a journalist was kind of a combination of those two because you still got to write.
Hmm.
But there is, especially in broadcast, there's still a performance aspect to it. And in my brain, I was like, oh, people respect journalists. They did back then. Not so much anymore. Sorry, buddy.
It's okay. I don't have a real job in their defense.
But that was sort of the thing. I went to college for broadcast journalism. I worked at the radio station there for 4 years, the college radio station. I did a little bit of TV there. But what I found was I hated all the extra work that goes into video of
Hmm.
like, you got to get B-roll, you got to edit the video, you got to, all of, that extra stuff.
Yep.
Whereas like editing audio, I don't mind all that much. And if I want to record something audio wise in my pajamas, it's fine.
Mm.
No one can see me as long as my voice sounds good.
It's very true. Do you want to take a drink?
I do.
Take a
But
drink.
I mean, I'm gonna be just chugging water this whole
Okay,
time.
that's fair. That's fair.
That's
I
all.
just don't want to be the thing that's stopping you from hydrating. Hydration is very
Mhm.
important. He says, having forgotten his drink in a different room.
Hydrate or dihydrate.
That's what they say.
That's what I gets yelled at me every single time I stream on Twitch.
So what was the transferal like from having this big serious job to the also very serious whipping job that you do? And what was the point at which you were like, oh yeah, this is the thing I'm going to do now?
So it was someone came to my show who'd been seeing my show at the Renaissance Fair for years because I'd been doing this on the side. It was like, this is how I made a little extra money.
Hmm.
It's how I was able to afford a down payment in the astronomical real estate prices that are, the Boston area. But so someone came, they posted a video of my show and it got 2 million or it got 300,000 views. Then another fan did the same thing. That one got 2 million views.
Wow.
Then another fan did it and that got 2 million views. I was like, okay, all right. There is demand on the internet for Jacques Ze Whipper. And my wife is a photographer, videographer, and she had a ton of old show footage. So we started just packaging it together, putting it on the internet. And it took like 2 videos to go viral, 3 videos to go viral. I forget what it was. And I was like, okay, all right, well, let's keep this going. Let's see how far we can ride it. Let's see what we can do. And the moment I knew I was going to quit my job,
Mm.
it was just like, I mean, it was liberating. I basically I needed to get enough contract work, like enough contract signed
Mm.
with the prospect of other contracts signed that I was like, okay, I'm not making a terrible financial mistake. But I took about probably 18 months before of doing TikTok also full time or social media full
Mm.
time, and then before I quit, and that was just to kind of like build up that side of things before I made this terrifying, horrifying plunge. But I mean, but once I made the decision, it was liberating because I mean, as a journalist, you're limited in what you can say, you're limited in what you can
Hmm.
do. You need to act in a certain manner, certain decorum, and now, I get to act basically however I want. I don't feel the need to be quite so stuffy
Mm.
all the time, and I feel like I can be truer to myself. Now, that doesn't mean like go and be a jerk to people.
Mm.
Obviously not trying to do that. But I feel like I can kind of just relax. And like if I want to talk about politics with people, I can talk about politics now. I don't feel like
Yes.
I'm I need to be impartial at all times about everything. I still don't talk about politics publicly though.
I mean, I wasn't going to ask you to. I fully
Not
respect
not
that.
going down that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
no, that's
not going down
fine.
that.
That's not the vibe I'm going for here. What were the first few shows like when you were full time?
Well, so it's weird because it's like the first couple shows, that I did full time were kinda just a continuation of what was happening. I think the big wow moment for me was, I did 1 weekend in what year is it? 2022, at the Maryland Renaissance Festival. So I joined TikTok in October of 2021.
Hmm.
And about 10 months later, I went and I did 1 weekend at the Maryland Ren Fest. And I wasn't sure, like, you can never know how an online following is gonna translate to people
Mm.
in person. A lot of people get followers, and then they can't find a way to mobilize those followers, and my crowd was completely full about 45 minutes before the show,
Wow.
and every show I had 4 shows that day, every single one of them was like that, and it was just this like, "Whoa, okay, all right." There is clearly a significantly larger demand for Jacques Ze Whipper now, including in person. And when I finally left and did in-person shows,
Mm.
there was a little concern on my part, because the first show I did full time was the Florida Ren Fest, and I was there for 4 weekends,
Mhm.
and then I did the Colorado Ren Fest, and that's 8 weekends. And I was like, okay, like I can pack 1 weekend. Am I
Yeah.
still going to have that kind of a draw if you spread it out over 4 weekends, 8 weekends? And the response was it was basically the same thing, just for 4 weekends or 8 weekends with those shows. So it was very clear very quickly to me that I was like, oh, okay, I made the right decision. This wasn't a terrible mistake.
I mean, that's amazing. Do you think there's an upper limit on how many weekends you can fill, or do you think it's just
What I find
wherever?
myself actually wanting to do is actually doing fewer weekends so I can hit more places.
That makes sense.
The US is huge. And right now I'm hitting a good chunk of the US, but I'm missing entire regions, where I know I have a ton of fans,
Mm.
but they've never seen my show because, all the Renaissance festivals that run in the Midwest per se, they run at times where I can't make them, or the Southwest, or like California.
Mhm.
Getting to California is a little bit of a hassle unless they want to pay me a lot of money to, fly all my stuff there, and not just fly myself, but
Mm.
fly my wife because she's now my full-time photog videog. So, it's I'm an expensive act to book now.
With your wife working so closely with you, is how is that? Because I know that working with partners can be a bit tricky.
It was, it's honestly like it's the same way that I feel like our relationship has gone in general. Like I remember before we moved in together when we were still dating before we were married, everyone was like, "Oh, when you move in, it gets so much harder." And when we moved in, I was like, "No, this got so much easier because now I don't need to like drive a half an hour to go to her house to see her. I can just be like, hey, you on the couch." Um, but so she was my full-time photographer, videographer, and editor while still working a real job for a
Mm.
year because I didn't, we didn't both want to quit our stable jobs that give us health insurance, which here in the US is extremely important.
Yes.
Before we were sure that this was a good idea. But so then this past January, she quit her job. She's now full time as well, and it's been great. It's been easier because now she's with me on every trip. She helps me with setup, with teardown. She's there to film just about every show for as long as I need her to film every show. It's mostly just the musical whipping at the start of the
Mm.
show. But it's been fantastic. It's been great. She's working on. We got something that's going out later today that she is literally working on right now. So that all I need to do is press publish when we finish this interview.
That's incredible. I
Yeah,
believe that's the toy that you've been hinting at, right?
that is the U2's vinyl figurine, and it's launching in as of this time of recording. It's launching in 39 minutes.
This will be yesterday when I publish this
Okay,
because
so
time is
yeah,
weird.
yeah, it's available. It's available until September 4th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
So
It's only
specific.
it's only 3 weeks.
How does that feel?
It's weird. I remember thinking when I was younger, I was like, a Jacques Ze Whipper action figure honestly makes sense. But I was like, I don't want to like put in all that work of like getting a designer and getting all this. And then my agent reached out to U2's. And thankfully, like they handled everything on their end. They handled the shipping, they handled everything. It's like literally like all I need to do is just say yes and then just like advertise it. Which is to me, having been like, I'm hyper independent in so
Mm,
many ways, and I want to do everything, but then to have like someone be like, "We'll take care of everything. All you need to do is just like help us sell it,"
mm,
is it's extraordinary. It boggles my mind, and especially for me, having been in, I was in news for 13 years,
mm,
and I had so many different jobs, but a very good chunk of that time was spent as someone else's writer, someone else's producer, helping other people, essentially get the spotlight.
mm.
Having been in that, it's really weird having people do that for me, and I'm still not fully comfortable with it.
Yeah, well, that kind of answers that. But like, are you happier now that the attention is on you? Or is there a point at which you'd be like, actually, I want to step back from this, tag in James Ze Whipper or something?
Well, yeah, I mean, there are times when I would very much like to be left alone. The attention. I am not famous enough that it is like I need to hide myself when I go out in public. Every now and then I'll go to an event where I'm like, I should probably like maybe wear a baseball cap just so I'm not quite as obvious, because I know a lot of my fans will be there. But like if I'm out in public and someone recognizes me and wants a photo, like I'm fine with that. That is rare enough that that's not an issue. I think the bigger thing for me is like at Renaissance fairs.
Mm.
Um, I used to really enjoy doing like walkarounds and just taking in the vibe of the fair during the day. I cannot do that now because I get stopped every like 5 steps. I was gonna say every 5 minutes, but that would be a dream at this point. But it's about every 5 steps I get stopped for something. Whether it's a photo, whether it's
Mm.
someone to say hi, and I'm like, I don't have I'm trying to save my energy for the 4
Yeah.
or 5 shows I need to do during the day. Um, so that's the only time where I'm like, a disguise would be nice. Unfortunately, I need like a full body disguise because every part of my costume is so distinctive. It needs to like cover me head to toe.
You need like
Uh,
a full anime cloak.
Yeah,
Just
I was thinking that like the Jedi or the Sith robe might
yeah.
work, but even still, you'd have the little like red heels, my little pimp shoes, as I call them. You'd have those like sticking out underneath, and someone would still recognize me, I'm sure.
You're simply too famous now, but specifically at Renaissance fairs. Uh,
Only at Renaissance fairs. It's weird. I do not get recognized at home at all. I travel around Boston. I go run errands all the time. No one recognizes me.
is that because the lack of the mustache?
Maybe, but then like I'll be on tour and I get recognized at like every stop. It's weird.
That is weird. Maybe they're
I was
specifically not recognizing you on purpose.
I mean, maybe they just see me enough that they're like, all right, it's that
Oh
guy.
no, everyone's
Whatever.
seen
We
him
don't care. Yeah.
every 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I did an errand run in Texas earlier this year. I stopped at the gas station, the grocery store, and the hardware store. I was recognized at every single stop.
Wow.
And then like I come back here and nothing. I mean, like, I'm not complaining. I believe me, I would rather not have people know exactly where I live or have an idea of where I live.
Of course.
The Boston area is fine with me.
Somewhere in the US.
Somewhere in the US.
Are you going for any more Guinness World Records?
No. God,
No.
no. Unless I think the only way that that would happen is if someone were to beat my world record for most whip cracks in a minute. And then I would be like, all right, let's go work out for 2 years, 6 days a week, eat 4,000 calories a day. Basically, like do the Hugh Jackman getting in shape for Wolverine diet, that kind of thing. I think that would be the only case in which I would stomach that kind of training. But the last round of training I did was just I was so burned out by the end of it. I was
Mm.
like, I have no desire to ever lift weights ever again.
That's
I like the music I was listening to like try and like get myself excited to like go work out with any kind of intensity. Like it just like you could see my mental state by like how increasingly unhinged the music got over the course of the summer and fall.
that's incredible. Uh, do you happy to talk fitness for a sec? Like,
Mhm.
do you exercise regularly normally? Obviously not to the same
Yeah, I'm
intensity,
I'm
but
gonna go hit the gym basically as soon as we're done. So I try to stay in shape as best I can. On the road, that is hard.
mm,
So to put it in perspective, right now, and you're getting Imperial units as you should. I don't know why you guys don't use them, and somehow we do.
I d-
But right now,
don't ask me to justify the UK. I'm not going to. I don't want to.
so right now I'm about 6'1", and I am about 178 pounds, which is for someone of my size build, it's fine. About let's say in March, I was about 10 pounds heavier.
Okay.
Which is I don't know what that is into stones or I think it's 4 kilograms ish, 4.5 kilograms.
Yeah.
So, I've lost a good deal of muscle over the summer. And I did a heavy workout yesterday, and I was like, "All right, what are we on the bench press? Okay, yep, that's about 30 pounds lighter than what
Yep.
we were in March." So I think my fitness is generally like get in as good a shape as I can be over the winter, and I'm
Mm.
not working out regularly, so that I can afford to lose a few pounds during the season, and not lose all of it.
Yeah.
The the when I did the world record, I was weighing in closer to like 200.
Oh,
So about, 15 to 20 pounds more than right now.
how much do I weigh at the moment? I'm 215 and I'm 5'8". But I used to be a personal trainer. I'm
That
I'm
that
a
explains
I
it.
am a
Yeah.
dense man.
Yeah.
Uh
I was gonna say, yeah,
physically.
I am not.
Physically I'm a dense man. Not
Yeah.
I'd like to think I'm sort of not 100% dense psychologically, but depends who you talk to.
We all
Uh
have we all have our moments. We all have our blonde moments, our pretty moments.
yes. Yes. And thankfully my aging has stopped temporarily, so hopefully long will that last. Much like
Congratulations.
yourself. I think you're mid-30s, I believe.
36.
Oh, I'm also 36. So there you go.
Yeah, I think I saw in your email, I think, yeah, we were born in the same year,
Yes,
which would make
because
sense if we're the same age.
that is how that works.
Yeah.
Mathematically,
Mhm.
often, frequently, not all the time. Uh, let's move away. Actually, no, before we move away from the whipping, let's talk about how you do the songs that you do. Do you make
Yeah.
everything up on the spot? Do you practice specific songs?
Sometimes if a song is super, super popular, I'll practice it. Like Hot to Go
Hmm.
was one of those. But Hot to Go was so easy. I listened to it 3 times, and within 30 seconds, I was like, okay, that's exactly the lyrics. And it's pretty easy, just do JACQUES, and then
Yeah,
like, okay, what rhymes with S? Move on. Other songs, a lot of the time it's improv. People are like, they're trying to stump me now.
right.
So it's becoming harder and harder to find a song that's a good whip song that I also haven't done before. And that's the other thing is I was doing musical whipping for 12 years
Mm,
before anyone saw me on the internet. So a lot of songs I have already done and I've done multiple times. So like the first time it was improv, the second time it was half improv, and now it's
right.
like, all right, I know exactly what I'm going to
That makes
do.
sense.
And in an absolute pinch, just replace the verb with whip, and it's pretty easy. I try not to do that too much. I have a few crutches that I lean on for rhymes that I try not to do too much, but sometimes I'm like, all right, I'm out of ideas for how to do this, so I just lean on the rhyme stage with wage or cage,
Yep.
um, rhyme jack with crack and slack and knack, rhyme whip with flip, quip, slip, trip,
Yep.
whatever it may be. Those are the easy crutches.
What is there a song that you practiced that you wanted to do and never did do for whatever reason?
No, that was One Winged Angel. That was the Sephiroth theme song, and that was the one that I had in my back pocket for literally 10 years before someone finally asked for it. Um, but aside from that, nowadays it's like there are a couple songs that I'm like, oh, this might work, but I haven't had time to sit down and write lyrics. There's one that I'm kind of working on, but the lyrics have not been memorized yet.
Mm,
So if you were to request it, it would not come out well.
I won't request it, mostly because you
I
didn't suggest
appreciate
it,
that.
and also I'm not in
Thank you.
America. There's a long list of reasons why I can't physically feasibly request it. Uh,
I swear I am trying to get to Europe. I'm trying to it's probably not going to be next year, but I am hopeful for 2026.
that's very exciting. Would it be doing the same thing? I don't know if is the
Probably.
Renaissance fair scene big in Europe.
No. I think so. I think Europe, they actually try to go for historical accuracy to
Okay,
some extent. So I
sorry,
think I think what it would have to be like comedy clubs, theaters, that sort of thing.
makes
Um,
sense.
and so we need to build up a little bit more exercise in doing theater shows, which has been a different kind of show we've been doing over the last year,
Mm.
which has been a lot of fun because you can do so much more in theater shows that you can't do in festival shows and outdoor festivals where you're allegedly supposed to be historically accurate. No one is. The fair isn't.
I think you're up. It's clearly very historically
It's
accurate. I
very
can
historically
speak
accurate. It's 200 years too early, but it's fine.
that you're just
It's
ahead of your
very
time.
historically accurate for the 1780s.
There you go. See, nailed it. What is the? I know you've got like a band list of songs, right?
Yeah.
Outside of that, what is your least favorite song that you've been requested? That you've had requested?
Um,
English is a
right
ridiculous
now
language.
it's "Hot to Go" by Chapel Roan, just because it keeps getting requested just about every show. It's not on the band list, but it's getting close to the band list. Um, I think for me, it's just any song that I've done a bunch
Mm.
of times, and that has been put on TikTok before, and I'm like I've done it before. Give me something new to do. I need to like start respecting that sometimes people just want to see the hits live.
Yeah.
And I should be more respectful to them. For that, I should be more respectful to my fans. It's turning into a YouTuber apology. Um,
You need the
but
ukulele,
overall,
right?
no, it's I want to try and do new stuff at
Mm.
all times. Also because usually we're filming, and if I get another version of Chapel
Yeah.
Roan's "Hot to Go" does not help me with TikTok content,
No. Yeah.
even though we have dozens, if not hundreds, of songs that we could pull from.
Yeah.
Just
Fans,
just in footage.
think about Jack's TikTok
Think
when you're
think
requesting
about me,
songs.
all
Yeah.
right? I'm the most important thing here. No.
Exactly. There we go. We can. I might use that as the title, just so you're aware.
Think about me. I'm the most important. No.
An interview with the dark side of Jacques Ze Whipper.
Yeah.
Outside of just role playing as a Frenchman at Renaissance Fair, you also do RP and D&D.
Yeah. Oh,
Which I
yeah.
think is lesser known, I would think, based on the views and stuff on your channel. Is that something you do very often?
Yeah. So we have a weekly. I mean, like I have a weekly off camera game with just my friends, where I am playing Link's Casador, the what is it, silver dragonborn paladin who sounds like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yes, you have to drink water. So that's my character in that. I've worked with a few channels on Twitch and other spots
Mm-hmm.
with their online D&D games.
Mm.
But no, it's actually kind of funny. So I grew up reading the Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, basically D&D second edition,
Yep.
player's handbook. But as a child, I had no friends, and so I had no one to play D&D with, and this was very upsetting. And so I read this thing cover to cover
Mm.
multiple times. Never got to play, and it wasn't until my neighbor actually moved in during COVID, and she was like, "Oh, I'm a DM." I'm like, "Can we please play? Please, 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 please. I've wanted to do this since I was 7 years old backstage at a Renaissance fair. Please let me play." And now 3-4 years later we're still playing.
I mean, that's amazing. Have you ever DM'd yourself?
I DM'd one session. So our first campaign, one of our players literally just made a character from Dragon Ball Z.
Nice.
And so not even Dragon Ball Z abridged also.
Oh.
And yeah, O is right. And my DM was like, I have no idea how like any of the references he's pulling. And we need like an arc that is based around him. Can you do it? I'm like, yeah, sure. All right. So I made a whole session that was just the various people from Dragon Ball Z, and building up to, I guess a boss fight with Frieza where like they hit him once, and I was immediately like, I am gonna go ahead and just triple the HP that I gave you real quick.
Incredible.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You also do streaming?
Yes.
Where you play games and get to enjoy that kind of stuff as well.
Mostly Baldur's Gate 3, because apparently D&D is everything. D&D is life now. But also Baldur's Gate 3 is life.
Which is still D&D. Yeah, it's
Yes,
too late.
exactly.
D&D gets yeah, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
Do you wish you had more time to do that? Something you want to do more of in general?
Yes and no. I mean, so like the fact right now that it is very much a side project for me. I feel like if I tried to make it like a main project, excuse me, Um, I feel like if I tried to make it a main project, I would have to put so much more work into it
Mm.
and like actually make my setup look good, actually like get like an overlay and all that. And I don't want to do all of that work. Um, Whereas like what it is now, it's a way for me to do the video gaming that I would want to do anyway.
Mm.
But I can spend that time with my fans and like give them something to work with. So that's kind of where it's at right now. If I'm not performing regularly, it's generally 3 days a week. If I am performing regularly, it's 2 days a week, sometimes one if I'm traveling as well. But I try to do at least one a week as long as I'm not, on the road somewhere with terrible internet.
How much of the year do you spend traveling?
I'm probably on the road, I would say probably 3 or 4 months out of the year. Um, Colorado's the big stop. That's 2 months plus.
Mm.
And Colorado's more complicated because we're out there for so long, and because it's not easy to fly back because Colorado's, a mile above sea level. You got to get used to the altitude out there.
Right.
And I'm hesitant to come back here where it's sea level and lose that adjustment to the altitude. It's a lot easier if I just stay there. Other places like we're doing the Washington Fair in Seattle, just outside Seattle right now. I'm flying back and forth for that one because I want to be home now. But then it's a lot of driving, it's a lot of flying. We tried to train one time, never again.
Trains are something that I think as somebody in the UK, you just don't think of as being in America.
They do exist. I mean, they're not great. The one we tried, this was last year. We tried the what's called the auto train back from Florida to DC,
Right.
where you put your car on the train and they
Okay.
take you on up, and it's about a 16-hour train flight, and it was so uncomfortable. I think we got like 3 hours of sleep maybe on the whole trip, and I was like, nope, never again. This was not worth the money. I could have done this faster myself.
uh, Outside of Europe being in the future, what's in the what is your do you have aims in the long term? Like to ask this because I like to instill some existential dread in everyone I interview.
I appreciate that.
Just a touch.
Just a
It's the
touch.
British
No,
experience.
I have rough ideas and plans. I mean, like if you told me that right now this is my peak,
Mm.
and I can keep doing what I'm doing now for the next 35 years, and then retire fine, I mean, like, that's fine with me. I do want to do more theater work, just so I can hit areas that I can't hit with Renaissance fairs,
Hmm.
and I do want to do shorter stints at Renaissance fairs so I can hit more places, more parts of the country. So I'm trying to talk to other fairs, make sure we can hit a few places here and there. And then the theater work is also something that I can use to then do some international work and, visit my friends and fans in Australia, visit my fans in Europe, which is the one thing I have noticed. This is a little bit of a tangent, but I think you'll appreciate this. Is I have noticed that when I look at like where all of my fans are, most of them in the US, obviously, but then internationally, it's all the historic enemies of France that are like that round out the top three. It's the UK and Germany, and then like Australia and Canada. But I'm like, yeah, I mean, basically, it might as well be the UK historically. Um, I'm
Sorry.
joking. I'm joking.
Well,
I
I'm
know better about
sorry.
geography. As an American, I actually do know my history.
As an English
I
person, I
tried to
am
add.
sorry.
Oh my god, I tried to add a Waterloo joke to my show, and like 3 people got it. But more people got the joke about me making fun of Americans for not knowing their history.
I mean, uh, it says what it needs to say, I feel like.
Yeah, he says what it needs to say. Yeah.
Cool. Is there anything? This is always such a weird question because everyone I interview has a better social media presence than me. But is there anything that you want to plug coming up, or apart from the toy, obviously?
I mean, the YouTubes is the big thing. But my I will say this: if you want to see my show and you're not sure where I'm going to be, um, just check my website. My website has all the shows that are confirmed. My website always has the shows that are confirmed. If it's not on my website, it is not confirmed. Those are the dates. I got a lot of questions of like, oh, are you going to be here? Are you going to be here? Are you going to be here? And I used to answer them, and now it's just like there's so many of them on every video. I'm just like, just check the website. Just check the website.
Please visit the website.
JacquesTheWhipper.com, JacquesZeWhipper.com, JackLepiars.com. No one knows how to spell all three of my names. So like if you can just spell one of them correctly, you'll get there.
Just Google it.
Also that.
Just Google Jacques the Whipper and you'll find his website. After like 40 YouTube shorts and TikToks.
Yeah, there you
and
go.
like 3 Danny Phantom recommendations.
Yes. Oh my God. I'm just riding the Danny Phantom wave, honestly, at this point.
I think that's the dream of any content creator, really.
Yeah. Have Danny Phantom come to your show, have him hug your horn, somehow get 7 million views out of it.
Let me just. Oh no, I don't need to take notes. This is recorded. Those
yeah,
are
there you
notes.
go.
There we go.
Yeah, just shoot him an email as soon as we're done.
Wonderful. My sign off is the worst because my first guest made it, and it's just waving at the camera awkwardly.
Shall we both do it together?
Yeah.
It'll be less awkward if we do it together.
No, that's I was. Bye. Oh, Queen wave. Nice.
I gotta. You know.